Chapter 468. No wonder Master took out that priceless top-grade spirit wine. So it was to wait here for the ghost doctor? However, would Master really get the ghost doctor drunk? The two glanced at Lung Shuang and felt that they should first get rid of her. Otherwise, even if the ghost doctor was drunk, with this girl around, it wouldn't be convenient for Master to do anything. Thus, Hui Lang's eyes turned and he smiled. Lung Shuang, go back and rest first. We'll keep watch here. Lung Shuang glanced at them and didn't say anything. She continued to stand quietly in the courtyard. She also heard the conversation in the room. She was afraid that Master was in a bad mood and drank too much. The two saw that she was ignoring them. So Hui Lang gave Yi a look and asked with a smile, Lung Shuang, how long have you been by the ghost doctor's side? I can see that she trusts you a lot. Last time, she only brought you to Qingting Kingdom. Looking at the two people approaching, she frowned. You, just as she spoke, she felt a pain in the back of her neck and fainted. Looking at Lung Shuang who fell to the ground, Hui Lang glared at Yi. Why didn't you catch her? Yi glared at him and also said, Why didn't you catch her? I saw that you were closer. I thought you would catch her. After the two finished speaking, they silently stared at each other. After a while, Hui Lang said, Hurry and carry her to the room over there. You carry her. I won't. Yi kept retreating and didn't even look at him. When Grey Wolf heard this and saw how quickly he dodged the attack, Grey Wolf wanted nothing more than to kick him. He fiercely glared at him and then looked at Lung Shuang who was lying unconscious on the ground. After hesitating, he went forward to carry her and brought her to the room. As for the two people drinking wine in the room, it was a completely different scene. Fengjiu, who was originally only wearing a coat, had already taken off her coat. She was only wearing an inner garment. She held a bowl in her hand and gulped down the wine until the bowl was empty. Then she slammed the bowl on the table and said, Pour more. The Yama Lord, who was sitting next to her, glanced at the woman whose eyes were blurred and whose face was flushed red. His deep eyes moved, but he didn't pour more. Instead, he picked up some food for her and said, Eat some food. Wine, I want wine. She waved her hand and pushed the wine bowl in front of him. She pointed at the bowl. Here, pour. Seeing this, the Yama Lord lifted the wine jar and poured her another bowl. This was spiritual wine, so even if the after effects were strong, it wouldn't be too harmful to the body. Moreover, she had more or less eaten some dishes, so it shouldn't be too bad to drink more. She drank bowl after bowl, and the jar of spiritual wine was quickly emptied. The Yama Lord shook the empty wine jar and looked at the woman beside him. He couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. Why are you looking at me? The drunk woman was holding her chin with both hands and smiling at him with a red face. Her head was shaking back and forth, and her eyes were shining. He couldn't help but find it interesting. So, she was actually so cute when she was drunk? Cute? He never thought that such a word would pop out of his mind. I want to tell you something in secret. Come here. She narrowed her eyes at him with a pair of seductive drunken eyes and hooked her finger at him. Chapter 469. But what he didn't expect was for the woman to wrap her arms around his neck and pull him to her side. Her warm lips pressed against his ear. That warm breath and numb feeling made his entire body stiffen. He could only feel a wave of heat rushing down his abdomen. However, a certain drunk woman still didn't know what she had done. She continued to spray her warm breath into his ear, and even let out a pleasant laughter that sounded like a silver bell. Hee hee hee. Let me tell you, you're actually really handsome and cool. You're quite pleasing to the eye. Then, the hand on the Yama Lord's neck moved up and touched his face. She giggled and said like a hooligan, Don't think I don't know that you're always hovering in front of me like a peacock trying to seduce me. Believe it or not, I won't be able to hold myself back and burp. I'll pounce on you. She burped and patted her chest with one hand. Her blurred eyes saw the man in front of her with a pair of deep black eyes staring straight at her. She was annoyed and her red lips muttered, What are you looking at? Believe it or not, I'll take care of you. Oh, what do you want to do with me? Tell me honestly, have you been drooling over me for a long time? His voice was low and hoarse, and it carried a magnetic charm that could captivate one's heart. It sounded as if it was luring and seducing. His pair of deep black eyes were suffused with a burning light as he stared at the charmingly drunk woman before him. He only felt as if a hand was lightly stroking his heart, scratching it to the point it was itchy and numb. She giggled and stood up. She stretched out her hands to hold his face. A pair of intoxicated, beautiful eyes stared at the resolute and handsome face in front of her. She smiled and said, "I'll be honest with you. I've been drooling over your beauty for a long time. Tell me, how can there be someone as good-looking as you?" No, you're not human." Hearing her words, his heart burned with passion. His pair of black eyes shone with an astonishing light. That was joy. That was joy. That was an indescribably wonderful feeling. He only knew that she was drunk and confused, but the words she said made his heart soar. What belly full of anger? What brothel girl? What repeated rejection? At this moment, all of it disappeared without a trace. He only knew that in this life, he would never let go of this woman. "I'm not human? Then what is it?" he asked with a smile. He pulled her into his arms and let her sit on his lap. Fengjie was so drunk that her words were flying all over the place. She could say anything that she normally wouldn't say at this time. She felt that she was pulled down by him and sat down. She giggled and wrapped her arms around his neck. Her beautiful face was flushed with excitement. What a soft chair. As she spoke, she deliberately twisted to feel the softness of the chair. But soon, she frowned and muttered, "Take the stick away." She reached out to pull it away, but she heard someone take a deep breath. Her whole body tensed up. She blinked her blurry eyes and approached his face like a curious baby. "What are you doing?" Yanzhu felt a swelling pain in a certain part of his body. Looking at the dazed woman in his arms, he gritted his teeth and picked her up. Chapter 470. Fengjie was lifted into the air. She kicked her legs and giggled. "I didn't seduce you. You did," the man said angrily. Because of the fire in his body, all the muscles in his body swelled. His whole body was tense, and he felt like a fire that needed to be put out by the woman in his arms. Fengjie, who was being carried into the inner room, rubbed her blurry eyes. When she saw the handsome and charming face in front of her, she nodded and said normally, "Yes, I did." But in the next moment, her normal expression changed. She laughed like a little hooligan and touched the man's body with her hands. "Uncle, seduction is not just about the mouth. You also need to use your hands and feet. Come, let me touch your muscles. I've wanted to touch your abs since the first time I saw you." Hee. The Yama King's eyes were deep and serene when he heard this. Two scorching flames danced in his eyes as the corners of his lips involuntarily curled up. He looked at the drunk woman in his arms and said, "Oh, so you've been lusting after me in the Nine Valleys forest." I just want to touch." She smiled with her drunken eyes and rubbed against his arms like a kitten. "When we're on the bed, I'll let you touch me. You can touch wherever you want." It was rare for Yanzhu to be so magnanimous as he spoke. The smile on his face could no longer be contained as he strode into the inner room. However, at that moment, he saw the woman who was buried in his arms patting his hand. "Put me down. You made me so hot. Do you think you still have the chance to back down?" He ignored her. He just wanted to do her. Burp. "Put me down." She burped again, and her face didn't look too good. "I'm not putting you down." The bed was right in front of him. It wasn't easy to get her drunk, so how could he miss this opportunity? Hearing this, Fengjie frowned. She pulled open the front of his clothes and buried her face in it. Then, she vomited. The Yama Lord, who initially refused to let go and only had eyes for the big bed, froze at this moment. His eyes were filled with disbelief and astonishment. He lowered his head to look at the woman in his arms. After vomiting for a while, she wiped her mouth with the corner of his shirt. She looked up at him innocently, as if to say, "It's not my fault. You're the one who won't let me down. I really can't hold it in any longer." She blinked her eyes innocently. Because of the alcohol, she felt that her eyelids were getting heavier and heavier. After vomiting, she felt much better, so she grinned and slowly fell asleep. Fengjie. Yama Lord gnashed his teeth and angrily roared. This roar was very clear and resounding in the night. Practically everyone in the Feng Manor was alarmed. The next day, Fengju woke up at noon. He had drunk too much last night, so his head was heavy when he woke up, and his temples were still hurting. Lying on the bed, she gradually regained consciousness. Suddenly, she remembered what happened last night and couldn't help but blink. What did I do last night? A few scenes appeared in her mind. Some of the things she said and did appeared in her mind as her consciousness gradually cleared. Her face also became strange. Chapter 471. After getting up and washing her face and rinsing her mouth, she opened the door and walked out. However, she did not see Leng Shuang outside. Thus, she called out to her, but there was no response. She then went to her room to take a look, but she saw the servant lying on the bed in her tight clothes without even taking off her shoes. She raised an eyebrow and went forward to take a look. She then pressed her Runzhong pressure point and saw Leng Shuang slowly wake up. Master! When Leng Shuang saw her, she seemed to have thought of something and quickly jumped out of bed. Master, are you all right? I seem to be fine, but how did you get knocked unconscious? And with such force? Her mind spun. In the Feng Manor, aside from Hui Lang and Ying Yi, there was probably no one else who dared to knock out Leng Shuang. Last night, the two of them did it. Leng Shuang furrowed her brow as she spoke. Thinking of Hui Lang and Ying Yi's plotting last night, her cold little face became as cold as ice. I originally wanted to ask you what exactly happened last night, but it seems like you don't know even more than I do. She gently sighed and waved her hand. Forget it. I'll go eat something first, then I'll go take a look at the phone guards. Seeing her master turn to leave, Leng Shuang gritted her teeth. After washing her face and rinsing her mouth, she changed into a set of black clothes and left. She did not go cause trouble for Hui Lang and Ying Yi because she was not as strong as the two of them. If she fought, she naturally could not beat them. Thus, when she saw her master eating in the courtyard, she said, Master, I want to teach Hui Lang and Ying Yi a lesson, but I can't beat them. Fengju ate some food with her chopsticks and drank some soup. Hearing her words, her eyes lit up and a sly look appeared in her eyes. That's easy. I have plenty of ways to take care of them. She put down the bowl in her hand and wiped the corner of her mouth. She then pulled out a bottle of medicine from her space. Here, a bottle of medicine is enough. She smiled like a sly little fox and said, This is better than beating them up. Leng Shuang took the bottle of medicine and looked at it. He put it away, bowed, and walked to the kitchen. They lived in the Feng Manor, and the kitchen was filled with the Feng Manor's people. If they wanted to do something, it would be very convenient. Seeing that Leng Shuang had gone to the kitchen, Fengju walked out of the courtyard and planned to go to the back of the mountain to take a look. Unexpectedly, she had only walked a short distance when she saw a figure coming from the front. When she saw him, she instinctively wanted to run away. She did as she was told. She wanted to hide before he saw her. Unexpectedly, she had just turned around and taken a step when she heard his voice. What? Last night, you hugged and touched me, and now you want to turn hostile and not recognize me? The Yama Lord snorted coldly and walked over with steady steps. Last night, he had soaked in cold water for an entire night. His skin had wrinkled from being soaked in cold water for so long before he managed to suppress the fire. This woman had stirred up his fire but was not responsible for extinguishing it. If the same thing happened a few more times, he reckoned that a certain part of his body would be suffocated. Hee, Yama Lord, good morning. She gave an embarrassed smile and turned around to greet him. However, she was surprised to find that although the man's face was tense, there was no anger on his face. Instead, there was a look of helplessness. Seeing this, she could not help but feel a bit strange. Because when she saw him, her mind inexplicably recalled a few scenes from last night. When she woke up, she remembered hugging, touching, and teasing him. In the end, she had vomited all over him. That was enough to make her feel too ashamed to see anyone and wanted to find a place to hide. But now that she saw him, her gaze could not help but move to his lower abdomen. Her eyes flashed. Chapter 472. That shouldn't be the case. She must be thinking too much. Although she thought this, her heart felt inexplicably weak. She lowered her head even more, and her eyes flickered, not daring to look at that man. When the Yama Lord saw her guilty expression and saw her eyes look around his body before moving to a certain place below his abdomen, he could not help but tense up. Under her fiery gaze, a certain place began to change. Feeling the change, a trace of awkwardness appeared on his face. He angrily glared at the shameless woman, and his low voice carried a trace of embarrassment as it came from his mouth. "It's broad daylight. Where are your eyes looking?" Fangio quickly raised his head to look at the sky. "I'm not looking anywhere. I'm just looking at today's weather." "Humph." He let out a cold snort and took a deep breath to ease his tense body. The cold aura in his body secretly circulated, and as the cold aura brushed across his body, the cluster of flames in his lower abdomen also dissipated. A gentle breeze blew by, bringing with it a trace of icy aura. Feeling it, Fangio glanced at him and remembered that the 1,000-year cold poison in his body had not been cured. She thought quickly and said, "That, Yama Lord, how is the cold poison in your body right now? It hasn't flared up again, right? The pills I had Huilang give you back, then are they effective?" The Yama Lord, who had calmed down, pursed his lips and glanced at her before replying. After taking your pills, it hasn't flared up again on the 15th of every month." "That's good. When will I give you a small bottle of blood? When I have time, I will study your blood and see if there is any way to cure the cold poison in your body." She spoke in a fawning manner. In truth, he had helped the Feng Manor a great deal, and he had come from so far away. She knew his intentions. If there was any way to cure the 1,000-year cold poison in his body, she hoped that it could be cured. That time in the 9 Volts forest, she had seen his appearance when the cold poison flared up. It was indeed quite distressing. Unfortunately, it was a 1,000-year-old cold poison after all. If it was an ordinary cold poison, it would not be so strenuous to cure. Hearing this, the Yama Lord did not say anything. He took out a dagger and slit his wrist. Then, he took out a small bottle of blood and handed it to her. Fangio's eyes widened in astonishment. Looking at the hand that was still dripping with blood, she couldn't help but scold. "Is there something wrong with your head? I said I wanted a small bottle of blood, but I didn't want it immediately. Why did you cut your wrist without saying anything? Do you think there's too much blood?" Although she scolded him, she still took the small bottle from him and quickly took out some medicine and cloth from her space to bandage her wound. The Yama Lord lowered his head and looked at the woman who was bandaging his wound. He kept scolding and scolding her, but he couldn't help but feel warm. At this moment, a trace of gentleness flashed through his deep black eyes, and an undetectable smile appeared on his lips. "It's nothing. It's just a little blood." When he spoke, his voice was abnormally gentle. To him, it was indeed just a little blood. This sort of wound was not something he cared about. It did not matter if it was bandaged or not. "It's done." As Fangio spoke, she looked at his wrist with satisfaction and took a step back. The Yama Lord's gaze moved away from her body. When his gaze landed on the wrist that she had bandaged, the corners of his mouth twitched. Chapter 473. Seeing him stare at the bow in his hand, Fangio took the opportunity to slip away. "All right, I still have matters to attend to. I'm leaving." The Yama Lord looked up, but only saw the woman's figure leave like the wind. Seeing this, he secretly shook his head and continued to walk forward. At the same time, in the imperial palace, Morongbo, whose body was aging day by day, was becoming more and more irritable. In just a few short days, he had already killed quite a few guards. This caused the people who walked in front of him to tremble in fear. They could not find a cure, nor could they find any trace of the ghost doctor. Every day, his body would age by 10 years. In just 2 or 3 days, his entire person had changed greatly. Perhaps even if Fangio was here, he would not be able to recognize him. "Gather everyone for me. Tonight, we will surround the Feng Manor and launch a surprise attack. If we can catch Feng Qinga, catch Feng Qinga. If we can't catch her, catch the unconscious Feng Xiao. I don't believe that they will refuse to hand over the antidote once they fall into my hands." He angrily roared. His voice was old and dry, as if he was an old man on the verge of death. All the life in his body had already left him, as if he could die at any moment. However, with just one roar, his body was unable to endure it and began to violently cough. This caused the hearts of the kneeling generals and black-clothed guards to tighten. One person hesitated for a moment, then said, "Master, I fear that this is not appropriate. The Feng Manor currently has a strong person standing guard. I fear that." Bang! Bang! Before he could finish speaking, a teacup landed heavily on his forehead. Following that, it fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. A smear of warm blood seeped out from that person's forehead. He did not dare wipe it away. He only lowered his head and did not dare say another word. "Speak. Try and stop them again." Morong Bo glared fiercely at the people below. "Whoever dares to stop me again, I will kill them first." This subordinate will immediately go and gather people. "Tonight, we will surround the Feng Manor. We will definitely capture Feng Chinga alive and bring Feng Shao back for the master to deal with," the people below quickly said, not daring to go against his wishes. In reality, everyone knew that they could not touch the Feng Manor at this time. But with the emperor's orders, how could they not obey? If they didn't obey, they wouldn't need to be killed when the time came. They would probably be killed right here and now. In regards to attacking the Feng Manor, everyone seemed to be able to imagine this scene. That would be complete annihilation. A single nascent soul stage cultivator was enough to flatten the entire country of Glorious Sunday. Moreover, the expert that could take a nascent soul stage cultivator's life was still in the Feng Manor. Chapter 474. It was as if all the factions had received the news. The shops on both sides of the street and the small stalls on the side of the road all closed when it got dark. As night fell, not a single person could be seen on the streets of Yunyu City. It was eerily silent, and the atmosphere was so heavy that it made people's hearts feel heavy. This continued until the streets were surrounded by groups of soldiers. Group after group of soldiers trotted toward the Feng Manor. The sound of their chaotic footsteps could be heard on the streets, and it was very clear in the night. In the shadows, the people sent by the various factions and clans who had heard the news saw the soldiers and quickly sent word back to their clans. The glorious Sun Country was in chaos. The glorious Sun Country was in chaos. Tonight, Yunyu City was destined to not be peaceful. It was destined to be a bloody scene. Who would win and who would lose? Even if they did not see the result, they could guess the result. The Murong family's most outstanding child, the third prince, had already left Yunyu City and was nowhere to be found. The other children of the Murong family did not amount to anything. Aside from the elders of the imperial family who were in closed-door cultivation, the only person left in the Murong family was Morong Bo. Now, it was said that he had contracted a strange illness. His cultivation had dissipated, and his appearance had aged. It had only been a few days since he had fallen ill. The Murong family's luck had run out. Now, they had mobilized all of Yunyu City's soldiers to attack the Feng Manor. According to the news, Morong Bo suspected that his strange illness was caused by the Feng Manor. Thus, he wanted to capture the Feng Manor's eldest young miss and the unconscious Feng Shao to force them to hand over the antidote. However, when they heard this, they felt that it was inconceivable. The Feng Manor's loyalty was unparalleled in the entire glorious Sun Country. How could the Feng Manor's people go and poison Morong Bo? If this was true, then Morong Bo must have done something against the Feng Manor. Otherwise, why would the Feng Manor do such a thing? Moreover, Feng Shao was currently unconscious, and old Master Feng's whereabouts were unknown. The Feng Manor only had the eldest young miss supporting it. How could she possibly act against Morong Bo? Quite a few people felt that Morong Bo's suspicions were because he was too ill. Otherwise, who would mobilize the entire city's military forces to attack the Feng Manor despite knowing that the Feng Manor had a strong guard? Wasn't this the same as throwing an egg against a rock? The people from the various families and factions also headed towards the Feng Manor. They did not plan on getting involved. They just wanted to see the scene and confirm their guesses. What was different from the outside was that inside the Feng Manor, everything was normal. Feng Shao was in secluded cultivation and had yet to come out. Everything in the Feng Manor was managed by Fengjiu. As for the Feng Manor and the manor, they had already been sent to guard every corner of the Feng Manor after hearing the news. This time, they did not stand guard outside. They only stood guard inside the Feng Manor, making preparations for battle. At this time, Fengjiu was wiping his dagger in the courtyard. Lung Shuang and Long Hua were standing behind him. At this time, a few puffs came from outside. Hearing this sound, the three people in the courtyard could not help but raise the corners of their lips. They could not help but smile. I could hear this vulgar sound from far away. I thought that you two would hide in your rooms and not come out. Fengjiu raised his eyes and looked. His gaze did not land on the Yama Lord in front of him. Instead, it landed on the two people behind him with awkward expressions. Chapter 475. Looking at the awkwardness on their faces, as well as their tense posture, Lung Shuang felt very relieved. Her master was right when he said that a bottle of medicine could relieve any anger. She didn't know what the medicine was for, but looking at their current state, it was indeed better than giving them a beating. The Yama Lord glanced at the two people behind her and frowned. Go and stand outside the courtyard. She meant that she was disgusted. Well, how could she not be disgusted when the two people beside her were farting all the way here? Master, please help us put in a good word with the ghost doctor and ask for an antidote. Look at the two of us. It's really unsightly. Hui Lang said awkwardly. Just as he finished speaking, there was another pft. He had just released one, and Ingi had released two as well. The Yama Lord's handsome face darkened. Sigh, there's no other way. There's no antidote. Feng Jiuxiao squinted as he put away the dagger in his hand and said, This medicine won't kill you, and it won't hurt or itch. At most, you'll have to let it go for 3 days and 3 nights. That's good. It'll help you get rid of your bad breath. She chuckled. You don't have to thank me. I won't take your money. Hearing her say that there was no antidote, Grey Wolf and Ingi immediately withered. Their faces were pale, and they lowered their heads. They felt that they could not hold it in anymore. The two of them hurriedly skipped out. When they came out of the courtyard, several people in the courtyard heard a louder and louder sound coming from outside. The Yama Lord ignored them and looked at Fengjiu. Do you need my help tonight? She remembered that she liked to handle things herself and didn't like him to interfere. That was why she came over to ask. After all, she didn't know how much hidden power the glorious Sun Emperor had and whether she could handle it. There's no need. I've already arranged everything. There won't be any accidents. That Morongbo is only a cripple now. As for the people under him, Master is useless. I don't believe that they will still be loyal to him. Tonight, she wanted Morongbo to know that after provoking the Feng family and provoking her, she would not let him off so easily. He would pay a painful price for his stupidity. No matter who it was, no one could change his fate. Seeing the natural radiance between her brows, as if she had a card up her sleeve, he nodded. This monarch understands. This monarch will not interfere. As his deep and magnetic voice fell, he took a deep look at her and said, However, no matter what, if you need my help in the future, you must tell me. I will always be your strong backer. He stretched out his hand and handed over a token. Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes flashed and her heart skipped a beat. Looking at the serious man in front of her, she didn't know what to say. She shifted her gaze and looked at the token in his hand. The two words, Yinling, were very conspicuous. This is the token of your Yinling? She didn't take it and just looked at him. A token that could be taken out from his hand was probably not an ordinary token. Fengqinga, you already knew that I sent people to ambush and assassinate Feng Xiao, right? That's why you poisoned me and wanted to torture me to death. That was right. I personally led people to ambush and kill your father. It's a pity that I didn't manage to kill him at that time and even let him hang on to his life. However, now that he's alive, it's no different from being dead. What's the point of being an unconscious cripple? In a few breaths of time, the 8 martial arts grandmasters were all killed on the spot. The corpses of the 8 martial great masters lay on the ground. The smell of blood permeated the air, causing the entire place to become deathly silent. It was especially so for the various clans and forces who were watching from afar. All of them were dumbfounded. With just a few words, he had made the soldiers put down their weapons and surrender. This was too inconceivable. They originally thought that no matter what, a fight would break out. However, from the perspective of the Feng Manor's experts, dealing with these people would not be a problem. They never thought that there would be no need for them to do anything. One by one, they surrendered to the Feng family. The Feng family's eldest young miss has pulled down Morongbo. Who is she trying to push onto the throne? A family head muttered, his heart feeling a bit complicated. A country could not go a day without a ruler. With the Morong family being pulled down, who would have the ability to firmly sit on the throne? Chapter 480. After all, Feng Xiao was still unconscious, so she was the only one left. Of course, if she did not sit there, perhaps someone from the Feng family's branch family would be pushed to the throne? Thinking about it, everyone felt that it was not too likely. None of the Feng family's branch family members had the ability to sit in the throne. Even if the Feng family was supporting her from behind, if she did not have the ability to handle matters, how could the throne be so easy to sit in? However, it was at this time that a large dark cloud suddenly appeared in the night sky, covering the Feng Manor. There was a faint flash of lightning, and a rumbling sound came from the cloud, shocking everyone below into suddenly raising their heads. What is going on? Is it going to snow or thunder? Some people spoke with strange expressions, while others stared at the cloud that covered the Feng Manor. Their eyes were filled with shock. Ha 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 ha. Feng Qingge, your Feng Manor is bullying the master. Even the heavens can't bear to see it. Ha 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 ha. Strike. Strike them to death. Strike them to death. Morongbo wildly laughed, but his voice was too old and powerless. It sounded very ear-piercing. After hearing Morongbo's words, some of the people who already had strange expressions turned their gazes to the clouds above the Feng Manor, thinking to themselves, this shouldn't really be as Morongbo said. The Feng Manor shouldn't have done something that would incur the wrath of the heavens and cause lightning to strike, right? Just as they were thinking, a bolt of lightning flashed across the night sky, and a bolt of heavenly lightning struck the Feng Manor. The sound was so loud that even the ground began to shake. At this time, even the Feng guards raised their heads in shock. They were a little confused. Why did this bolt of lightning strike their Feng Manor? Only Fengjiu's eyes lit up when she saw the bolt of lightning. A look of joy quickly appeared on her face. She looked at the second bolt of heavenly lightning that struck a certain part of the manor with a loud boom. The smile on her lips gradually deepened. When the 4 golden core cultivators saw the surging aura in the sky and the heavenly lightning striking the mansion, their eyes flashed with surprise. Then, they only smiled. It came faster than they expected, and from the looks of it, it should be a large success. Unlike cultivators, Xian martial artists could only attract heavenly lightning when they advanced from martial great master to martial emperor. After enduring 3 bolts of heavenly lightning, a martial great master would successfully advance to martial emperor. Currently, the only person in the Feng Manor who was advancing was the head of the family, Feng Xiao. Boom. When the 3rd bolt of lightning struck, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly scattered and a ray of light appeared in the night sky. This ray of light formed 7 colors that gradually spread out and almost covered the entire Yunhua city. The originally dark sky was as bright as day in this 7-colored light. The 7 colors complemented each other and shrouded the entire Yunhua city. As the light fell from the sky like rain, everyone in the city was shocked and ran out to see. Feng Manor. Heavens! I can actually see this kind of scene. Good fortune descending from the heavens. That must be someone with a high position in the heavens' favor. Only someone with good fortune can receive such good fortune from the heavens. Too unbelievable. This is the first time this old man has seen good fortune descend from the heavens. Chapter 481. Even Morongbo, whose life force had almost dried up, recovered some of his vitality under this multicolored light. He stared blankly at the starry night sky and muttered, "How is this possible? How can this be? Who is it? Who else in the Feng Manor is advancing? To be able to benefit all of Cloud Moon City's citizens, the citizens of the city all rushed towards the Feng Manor because they had all seen that the place with the most multicolored light was where the Feng Manor was located, especially when they ran over and saw the soldiers kneeling on the ground, as well as the multicolored light in the sky above the Feng Manor's head. Each and every one of them began to jump in joy. It's the Feng Manor. It's the light from the Feng Manor. The surrounding families and factions were all shocked. They all stared blankly at the sky above the Feng Manor. Their hearts were filled with shock. Even the heavens were helping the Feng Manor. After tonight, even if the Feng family's eldest young miss wanted to become the ruler of the glorious Sun Country, probably no one would oppose it. However, at this moment, an angry roar came from the Feng Manor. That voice carried a thunderous anger. It was clearly heard by everyone outside. What a good Morong Bo. You really think my Feng family has no one? Hiss, hiss. It's Feng Xiao. It's Feng Zhao's voice. Hiss. How is this possible? Wasn't he unconscious? Heavens! Could it be that the person advancing is Feng Xiao? Cries of shock came from the mouths of the family heads and the surrounding cultivators. All of them stared with wide eyes in disbelief at the Feng Manor. When they saw a figure holding a spear rushing out of the manor, they all froze. Morong Bo, you treacherous person, my Feng family has retreated time and time again. We didn't even bother about you trying to kill me. Now you dare to bully my Feng family, bully my daughter. You really deserve to die. A deafening voice that contained the powerful pressure of a martial emperor came out of Feng Zhao's mouth. Every word in that voice carried a fierce aura, sonorous, powerful, and piercingly cold. It was the iron-blooded aura that belonged to him, the fierce and unyielding martial spirit that belonged to him as a martial general. His voice was oppressive, and each word was like a blade, like numerous sharp blades that pierced towards Morong Bo's heart. Morong Bo, who had recovered a trace of vitality due to the multicolored light and stood up, was so shocked that his eyes widened when he heard Feng Zhao's furious voice. Now that he saw Feng Xiao holding a long spear and rushing over, he waved the long spear in his hand and heavily slammed it on the ground. He angrily pointed at Morong Bo, causing the blood in his chest to churn and a mouthful of his heart's blood to suddenly spurt out. Pooh! His body and mind suffered a blow, and his mind suffered a heavy blow. He only felt his vision darken. He could not believe it, nor did he want to believe it, that Feng Xiao, who he thought was seriously injured and unconscious, was actually standing in front of him with a majestic aura. Furthermore, he, who was originally in the early stages of martial great master, had now broken through to become a martial king. How was this possible? How was this possible? Feng Xiao. This time, he did not fall to the ground because he tightly held onto the imperial carriage and supported his body. His shocked gaze was filled with disbelief and hatred as he stared at the majestic figure standing in front of the Feng Manor's gates. Chapter 482. It's really Feng Xiao. He's fine. He even became a martial emperor. How did he become a martial emperor at such a young age? Other than shock, the crowd also felt an indescribable shock. Some people had cultivated for their entire lives and still could not break through to martial arts grandmaster. Even Yunhua City's old Master Gang and Feng Manor's old Master Feng were only at the peak of martial arts grandmaster after cultivating for their entire lives. However, Feng Xiao was originally only a beginner martial arts grandmaster. Even if he cultivated for another 50 years, it would be very difficult for him to reach martial emperor. But now, he did it. Not only did he not fall into a coma, but he also became the first martial emperor of the country of glorious sun. A martial emperor less than 100 years old. This was simply unbelievable. Die? Feng Xiao snorted heavily. The long spear in his hand shook again. Die so that you can destroy my Feng family? Die so that you can bully my daughter? My Feng family has protected the country of glorious sun for generations and is loyal to your Morong family. But in the end, you actually tried to kill me? What evil thing did I? Feng Xiao, do that you have to kill me? He questioned in a loud voice. Every sentence was harsh. He glared at Feng Xiao fiercely. I didn't come out of the hidden residence and handed over the imperial power. I didn't want to fuss over the fact that you tried to kill me. But what about you? You, Morongbo, actually want my daughter to be someone else's concubine. You want to take over my Feng family's power. You want to recruit my Feng family's Feng guards. You want to destroy the century-old Feng family. Now, if I don't stand up, how can I face my Feng family's ancestors? Morongbo, you've lost your power and your destiny is over. Killing you will dirty the long spear in my hand. Kill yourself. Other than you, I, Feng Xiao, will say that as long as they abide by the rules and don't go against my Feng family, I won't hurt them at all. Hearing these words, everyone sighed in their hearts. This Feng Xiao still had benevolence and righteousness in his heart. If it was someone else today, they would definitely kill the Morongbo and then kill his descendants to prevent them from taking revenge in the future. However, Feng Xiao might have let them go because of their friendship with the previous generation of the Morong family. Doing this was already extremely benevolent. Perhaps it was because he had truly realized that he had lost his momentum, but at this moment, Morongbo's eyes were lifeless. He stared blankly at all of the soldiers kneeling on the ground and not getting up. Facing the Feng manor, he looked at all of the family factions standing nearby and watching. He looked at all of the citizens pointing at him and discussing him. It was as if he was the only one left in this world. He was so lonely, and so sorrowful. Who could be blamed for the fact that he was deserted by his friends and family? The entire Morong dynasty was buried. Who was to blame? Ha, 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 ha. I, Morongbo, made a mistake, and then I made a mistake. Ha, 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 ha. The sorrowful laughter seemed to have used up the last bit of his heart's blood. He raised his head and beat his chest as he laughed. Blood came out of his mouth, and he staggered back 2 steps. His entire body collapsed on the imperial carriage. His eyes stared at the sky, and he took his last breath. The ruler of a dynasty tragically fell in this situation where he was deserted by his friends and family. The surroundings suddenly quieted down. Everyone watched as Morongbo took his last breath, but he was unable to close his eyes that stared at the sky. At this moment, everyone's hearts were indescribably complicated, and they were all silent. Chapter 483. Fengjie walked forward slowly and came to her father's side. Her clear voice was filled with mystic energy. From now on, my father, Feng Xiao, the head of the Feng family, will take over everything in the Glorious Sun Nation and become the new king of the Glorious Sun Nation. The Glorious Sun Nation will be changed to the Phoenix Dynasty. 3 days later, you will enter the East Palace. Her voice echoed clearly in the night, clearly entering everyone's ears. At the same time, everyone's hearts trembled, and the soldiers and commoners all excitedly knelt down to pay their respects. Greetings to the king. Long live the king. Greetings to the princess. Long live the princess. The Phoenix Dynasty will shine with the sun and the moon for thousands of generations. The deafening cheers echoed in the sky above Yunhua City for a long time. The people from the families and forces all looked on in shock, their hearts filled with emotions. The Feng family was the home of the people. No one dared to say anything about it. From tonight onwards, the Glorious Sun Nation had ended, and a brand new Phoenix Dynasty had appeared. Looking at the scene in front of him, Feng Xiao was confused. He looked at his daughter in shock. How did he become the king after coming out? Also, the Glorious Sun Nation had changed to the Phoenix Dynasty? Seeing her father's confused and shocked gaze, Fengjie smiled and said, "Father, don't you think that it's best for you to be the king of the Phoenix Dynasty? A family can't be without a king, and a country can't be without a king. Although this is a small 9th-tier country, once the news of what happened in Yunhua City spreads, it will definitely attract the attention of other countries. Only when you become the king of this country can you continue to protect the citizens and the country." But he didn't want to be the king. There are no buts. I know that father will definitely be a good ruler, and I also know that father has the ability to control and protect our country. Speaking to this point, she smiled. and her eyes overflowed with dazzling light and spirit. Father is now a martial emperor expert. As far as I know, none of the rulers of the surrounding small ninth-grade countries have Father's cultivation. I think that once the news spreads and they know that Father has become the ruler, they will only send gifts to congratulate him. They will definitely not dare to invade our Phoenix Dynasty's territory. After you take over for a while, you can participate in the country evaluation. I believe that the Phoenix Dynasty's rank will rise even further. Her voice paused, and her eyes sparkled. Father, the Phoenix Dynasty belongs to our family. Let's protect it together. Let's strengthen it. Perhaps he was influenced by her words, or perhaps he was attracted by the future she had envisioned. But Feng Zhao's sharp eyes, and he said in a deep voice, "Let's protect it together. This will always be our home." Luo Yu and the others were sent to the palace to deal with the aftermath, while Feng Zhao stayed behind to reorganize the troops. Just as he had said earlier, once Morong Bo died, he would not pursue the matter of the other members of the Morong family. However, he would chase them out of Yunhua City and let them settle down in other cities and towns. Fengzhou didn't take over the matters outside anymore. After handing the matters over to them, she went back to her residence first. Tonight's matter was much smoother than she had expected. It was easily resolved without using a single soldier. Chapter 484. You handled the matter very beautifully. The Yama Lord poured a cup of wine and looked at her as he spoke. Fengzhou walked in and sat down at the table. It's already quite late. Are you not going back to rest? Didn't this lord say it already? I'll wait for you to come back and drink. He raised the wine cup in his hand, and a playful smile appeared on his lips. Wine? This monarch has enough? Hearing this, the corners of her mouth twitched and she smiled. No need. I've recently stopped drinking. What a joke. What would happen if she did it again? Especially if she drank with this man. It was too dangerous. Scared? He raised an eyebrow and was a bit surprised. Hey, Yama Lord. I'm tired enough tonight. How about this? Let's talk another day? Look, my father has just taken over this country. There are many things he needs to take care of. Recently, I need to help him take care of some things. I will definitely be very busy, so you see? The Yama Lord glanced at her and said in a low and magnetic voice, Since the Feng Manor's crisis has passed, shouldn't you take care of the matter between the two of us? What matter between the two of us? She feigned ignorance and asked, Your father is very satisfied with this lord in all aspects. Speaking of this, he was quite proud because he had easily taken care of his future father-in-law. Now, as long as she nodded, this matter would be settled. However, getting this woman to nod was not easy. Is that so? If he's satisfied, then that's good. You are our Feng family's benefactor. If he's not satisfied with you, could it be that he doesn't like you? She smiled awkwardly and did not want to continue chatting. Thus, she stood up. I'm a bit tired tonight. That's all for now. I'm going to sleep first. I still need to get up early tomorrow. That's all. She waved her hand. She had only taken 2 steps when she heard the low and magnetic voice come from behind her. Hearing his shameless words, she tripped and almost fell. Do you need this lord to warm your bed? This lord is very good at this. He was in a good mood as he watched her run for her life into the room without even looking back. She closed the door with a bang. Seeing this, his lips curled into a smile. Although there was still some distance between the two of them, the wonderful feeling produced by this distance made him feel happy at all times. Recalling what Hui Lang had said about a good woman being afraid of a pestering man, it seemed that pestering her was useful. However, it seemed that pestering her was not enough to deal with her. Should he think about using his manly charm to seduce her? Thinking of this, his deep black eyes leaped with eagerness. He suddenly felt that his idea was very good. In the room, Fengzhou poured himself a glass of water and drank it. His eyes darted around and his brows furrowed. He felt that this could not go on. This Yama Lord. She had to think of a way to get rid of him, but what could she do to get rid of him? After drinking a glass of water, she didn't go to bed. Instead, she flashed into the space. Chapter 485. The monarchs of various small countries all sent people to find out the truth of the news. When they found out that it wasn't a rumor, and that Feng Xiao would ascend the throne 3 days later, they all ordered people to prepare generous gifts and send them to the Phoenix dynasty. Due to the distance and the lack of a spaceship, it was impossible to deliver the congratulatory gifts within 3 days. The reason they sent someone to deliver the gifts was just to express their attitude. As for the visit and congratulation, they naturally had to choose another day to do so. 3 days later, Feng Xiao ascended the throne as monarch. Almost the entire country was celebrating, and all the citizens were celebrating. Because Feng Xiao was originally a loyal and righteous person, and had also protected this country for many years, now that he ascended the throne, the citizens naturally cheered endlessly. And in a city, Murong Yixian, who was wearing a crescent moon robe, looked at the yellow notice posted on the notice board, and couldn't help but be slightly startled. He left and didn't care about their matters, and didn't want to find out what happened to his father in the end. However, on the road these few days, no matter where he was, under the notice board, the news spread extremely quickly. Even if he didn't deliberately ask around, he would still know what happened that night. He couldn't find fault with the Feng family's actions. After all, his father wasn't killed by them. Moreover, he died, but the other members of the Murong family weren't affected. This kind of result was already better than what he expected. He naturally wouldn't resent the Feng family for taking away their Murong family's kingdom and forcing his father to death. If it wasn't for his father's actions that day, how would the Murong family end up like this? If it was anyone else, they would definitely eliminate the weeds and leave no survivors for the Murong family. However, the Feng family didn't, and for this, he was very grateful. The Phoenix dynasty, this was a country that belonged to the Feng family. Actually, this should have been their families. If it wasn't for the Feng family protecting it for generations, this land would have already been swallowed by other small countries. The Feng family had sacrificed so much, and they deserved everything they had now. After becoming the princess of the Phoenix dynasty, I wonder what plans she has in the future. He softly muttered, still worried about her. Perhaps it was only because he couldn't get it that he kept thinking about it. At the same time, in Yunhua City, Feng Xiao moved into the imperial palace. The original Feng manor was left to Fengjiu and became her private residence. In the imperial palace, there was naturally a palace left for her. However, compared to the imperial palace, she seemed to prefer living in the Feng manor. It was also because of this that it was difficult for Feng Xiao to see her. After all, when he wanted to see his daughter after dealing with state affairs, he was told that his daughter was not in the palace. Thinking about it made him depressed. Unlike the other rulers, even if Feng Xiao became the ruler of the Phoenix dynasty, his harem was still empty. Think about it. He had never taken in a single woman in the Feng manor before. Naturally, it was impossible for him to take in a bunch of women in the harem after becoming the ruler. Moreover, in his heart, there had always been only his daughter's mother. Similar to Feng Xiao was the Yama Lord. After Feng Xiao became the ruler of the Eastern Palace, the Yama Lord could not find Fengjiu's figure. Every time he went to the Feng manor to find her, the people in the manor would say that their master had gone to the palace. When he went to the palace, Feng Xiao would say that his daughter was in the Feng manor. This caused him to not be able to find her after running around twice. He didn't even see Fengjiu appear. If he didn't know that it was impossible for her to leave before Feng Xiao stabilized the Phoenix dynasty, he would really suspect that she had sneaked away again. Chapter 486. Recently, she had been cultivating and realized that she was unable to break through after reaching the peak of the Martial Grandmaster realm. She wanted to enter the Martial Ancestor realm, but she felt as if she was missing something. She didn't use any pills on herself. Instead, she started to discuss with Huo Feng when she couldn't break through. I feel that I'm missing an opportunity. Do you think we should find some time to go out for a walk? Her eyes turned and her expression brightened. It seemed that she had been thinking about this for a long time. Yes, she couldn't get rid of the Yama Lord, but she could at least get rid of herself, right? Moreover, her father's matters were more or less settled. As long as there were no other countries to invade and the Phoenix Guards were protecting him, His position as the ruler of the country could not be more stable. That man is not an ordinary man. Do you think you can escape from him? The white and chubby fire phoenix, who was only wearing a doo-doo, glanced at her with disdain. It was chewing on the ginseng that Fengjiu had gathered for it. Of course, it was not as old as the 1,000-year-old ginseng. It liked to eat ginseng, as well as some fire attribute spirit herbs and spirit fruits. However, those things were too rare in this place. Only a few hundred-year-old ginseng could satisfy its cravings. Even so, it had become white and chubby recently. Its exposed limbs were as white as lotus roots, tempting people to take a bite out of them. Being looked down upon by the little guy, Fengjiu smiled embarrassedly. Then, it raised its chin and said proudly, "Who told me to be so charming that even the Yama Lord couldn't resist it? AI. Actually, I didn't want to either." Seeing her act, the little fire phoenix rolled its eyes. It hugged the half-eaten ginseng and turned around, leaving her with its fleshy back and its chubby little butt. Seeing this, Fengjiu happily reached out and poked its little butt. She asked with a smile, "Why do you like to wear a belly band recently? Look, your little butt is showing." "Humph. It's good that my little bird is not showing," it said without turning its head, and waved at her in disdain. "Don't stay here all day and annoy me like a coward. Hurry up and get out. It's going to turn the sky upside down if I can't find you." Sigh. "If I can't hide, then I'll just go out." She sighed softly. Then, she stood up and dusted off her clothes before flashing out of the space. "Coward." Little Fire Phoenix muttered and finished eating the ginseng. Then, it went to the place where the elixirs were placed. Outside in the courtyard, Yin Zhu, who couldn't find her, had been waiting for her in the courtyard. When Fengjiu came out of the space, he, who was drinking tea in the courtyard, paused for a moment. His deep black eyes flashed with a dim light as he looked towards the room. Her aura had not been there before, but now, it had suddenly appeared out of thin air. He was still wondering why he couldn't find her, but it turned out that she had a spatial treasure with her. No wonder. The door creaked open, and the figure appeared at the door. He looked at him and revealed a flattering smile. "Hee hee, Yama Lord. Why are you drinking tea in this courtyard? Do you need me to accompany you?" "Not hiding anymore?" He raised an eyebrow, and his deep black eyes fell on her body, making her scalp tingle. Chapter 487. With just a glance, he could tell that there was a problem with her cultivation. He did not continue to harp on the previous topic and instead asked, "Have you reached a bottleneck in your cultivation?" Hearing this, Fengjiu's eyes lit up and she quickly sat down opposite him. "Yes, my cultivation is at the peak of the martial grandmaster level, but I haven't been able to break through recently. I think I'm missing an opportunity, so I was wondering if I should go out for a walk." Hearing this, the Yama Lord glanced at her indifferently. "Are you trying to leave me behind to lie low for a while?" "Hee hee, of course not. I was just about to ask you, do you want to come along?" Her thoughts were exposed, so she smiled embarrassedly and quickly tried to salvage the situation. "Humph. If you want to invite me along, you have to see if I'm in the mood." The Yama Lord snorted coldly. He was obviously happy, but he still put on airs arrogantly. "I see. It's okay. I can do it myself." Her eyes were full of smiles as she looked at him with a cheerful expression. Hearing this and seeing her cheerful expression, the Yama Lord glared at her. "Who said I'm not going? Don't even think about leaving me behind." The corner of her mouth twitched. This arrogant and unreserved man. Why can't he be more reserved? Cough. The Yama Lord put a fist to his lips and coughed lightly. He looked at her and continued, "You can't reach the heavens in a single step in cultivation. In the past few months, your cultivation has improved by leaps and bounds. Many people can't keep up with your cultivation speed. However, this kind of cultivation is not good. You have to build a solid foundation for every rank. Otherwise, the higher your cultivation, the easier it is for you to collapse. Since you've already reached a bottleneck, take this opportunity to go out with me and train. Don't try to break through for the time being, otherwise it won't be of any help to your future cultivation. Don't take those advancement pills either. Piling up pills won't work either. Taking pills too often will make it easier for your cultivation to advance as you go further. Hearing this, Fengju nodded seriously, which was rare for her. Yes, I understand. Then, she looked at him strangely and asked, Yama Lord, are you really that free? You really don't need to go back to your house? The Yama Lord's lips curled into an imperceptible smile. He glanced at her and asked, What's wrong? Are you trying to inquire about my family background? If you want to ask, just ask. Why do you have to beat around the bush? If you ask, I will definitely tell you. Hee, there's no need. I'm just saying. She immediately retreated. She didn't want to know his background and family background. Knowing too much wouldn't do her any good. Seeing that she had instantly shrunk back like a tortoise, Lord Yama glared at her in exasperation. This cowardly woman. He had already made it so clear, yet she was still playing dumb. However, it didn't matter. He had plenty of time to waste with her. In the end, she would only be his woman. Thinking of this, his mood suddenly became better and the corner of his lips curled up. His handsome and resolute face was usually cold and tense, but now, because of this smile, the coldness on his face was softened. Fengju couldn't help but stare in a daze at this gentle expression. Chapter 488. What? Do you think this lord is a feast for your eyes again? He glanced at her and said coldly, This lord's tofu isn't delicious. If you don't admit it after eating it, humph? Hee, how would I dare? She laughed and immediately put away her drooling expression and put on a serious face. Yama Lord, then when do you think we should leave? Seeing her putting on a serious face, he snorted. You can let go of your father's place? As long as you can, this lord can leave with you at any time. Hearing this, she secretly rolled her eyes. What do you mean he can leave with me at any time? He said it as if it was something. However, she still had a fawning smile on her face and said, I can let go. I've left 4 golden core cultivators here for my father, and with the Phoenix guards guarding, the other small countries won't dare to invade. If the other small countries don't dare to invade, the people from the various forces in the Phoenix dynasty won't dare and have no reason to do so. Besides, I know my father's abilities and methods. With his power and handling ability, he can naturally control the Phoenix dynasty. Especially since we were born and raised in this place, we can't be more familiar with it. There's nothing to worry about. This was also what she thought after thinking about it. Her father was very safe here, and he could make full use of his abilities. Even if she left for a year or so, she would be at ease. Seeing this, the Yama Lord looked at her. If that's the case, then let's leave now. There's no need to be in such a hurry. I have to make some arrangements. She thought for a moment and said, 3 days. We'll leave in 3 days. I still have to enter the palace to tell my father about this. Enter the palace? This lord will accompany you. As he said this, he stood up. Hearing this, she glanced at him and asked, I'm going to the palace to say goodbye to my father. Why are you following me? Are you afraid that I'll sneak away again? Cough. The Yama Lord coughed, feeling a bit awkward, but he didn't show it on his face. His deep gaze moved from her face to the other side, and said lightly, This lord also has to say goodbye. After all, he's an elder. All right, let's go together then. Her voice paused, and she hesitated for a moment. She looked at him and said, But when we go to my father's place, don't talk nonsense. What nonsense are you spouting? He was confused for a moment and glanced at her, but when he saw her winking at him, he instantly understood. The corner of his mouth twitched and he looked up at the sky speechlessly. Was this woman afraid that he would tell her about that night when she was drunk? You've reminded me. If your father knew that the two of us had already reached that level, he would definitely be more at ease with you by my side. He said seriously, but a smile flashed through his deep black eyes, and the corners of his lips curled up in an imperceptible arc. Fengju was stunned when he saw him walk out with his hands behind his back. He quickly ran to catch up with him. Yama Lord, I realize that you've become even more handsome recently. Your manly charm is off the charts. Old people again? I'm wrong. You can't be considered an old man. At most, you're a charming uncle. Uncle? The Yama Lord snorted. This lord is only 25 years old this year. I'm only 9 years older than you. Then should I call you Big Brother? She asked carefully. Chapter 489. Fengju felt embarrassed. Did this person like to harp on this matter? Although she had taken advantage of him quite a bit that night, she did not actually pounce on him, did she? Also, who was the one that said that the alcohol was strong, then added that there was enough alcohol after hearing her say that she wouldn't cause trouble after drinking? It was clear that he was the one with bad intentions, and she had taken advantage of him. In truth, she felt that if she had not vomited all over him that night, the one that had been taken advantage of would have been her. That was why when she thought about it, she felt at ease. Who told him to have bad intentions in the first place? Leaving the courtyard, Hui Lang's shadow followed behind the two. Leng Shuang, who knew that Fengjiu was going to the palace, went to arrange for a carriage. After all, there was still some distance between here and the palace. Naturally, they could not walk. However, just as they left the Feng Manor's gates, they saw Guan Shilin walking towards them. Xiaojiu, I was just about to look for you. Seeing her, Guan Shilin broke into a smile. Seeing the Yama Lord to the side, he cupped his hands and greeted him. Brother, shouldn't you be at the black market right now? Why are you here? She walked towards him and asked, I have something to tell you. Do you have time right now? His gaze moved between Fengjiu and the Yama Lord. These two shouldn't be going out for a stroll, right? I was just about to go to the palace. I have something to tell father. Do you want to come? We can talk on the way. She gestured to the carriage to the side. Guan Shilin, who was about to nod, saw the Yama Lord glance at him from the corner of his eye. He then looked at the carriage and could not help but smile. So it's like that. Then I'll also go with you. I'll just ride a horse. You two can sit in the carriage. This carriage is very wide. The three of us won't be able to. As he spoke, he was interrupted. It's getting late. Let's talk on the way. As he spoke, the Yama Lord had already stepped into the carriage and entered. Seeing this, Guan Shilin quickly said, Xiaojiu, get in the carriage. It's the same if we talk in the palace. The Yama Lord's aura was not something a normal person could endure. If he dared to sit in the same carriage as them, he would probably be frozen to death by the Yama Lord's aura. All right, then we'll talk about it in the palace. She smiled and didn't force him. Only then did she get into the carriage. At this time, in the palace, Feng Xiao was sitting in front of a desk after finishing his work. At this moment, he did not have his usual majesty. In his hand, he held an amethyst white jade hairpin. He stroked the hairpin over and over again as if he was caressing the person he loved. At this moment, his eyes were filled with longing, tenderness, and pain that had never appeared before. Wanrong, our daughter has grown up. Do you know? She's really outstanding. If you could be by our side, how good would that be? He murmured in a low voice with a hint of sobbing. Men don't cry easily, but at this moment, tears welled up in his eyes. After so many years, the memories that should not have been forgotten were sealed away. The person in his heart that should not have been forgotten was not remembered. He felt guilty, his heart ached, and his heart was filled with longing. Chapter 490. Father, I'm here. Fengjiu's voice came from outside. When Feng Xiao, who was sitting in front of the desk, heard this, he quickly raised his sleeve to wipe the corners of his eyes. After adjusting his state of mind, he raised his head and saw that his daughter had already come in. Father? What's wrong? When Fengjiu arrived in front of him and saw that his eyes were slightly red, he couldn't help but be a bit startled. When he saw the amethyst white jade hairpin in his hand, his eyes couldn't help but slightly move. It's nothing. He shook his head, not wanting to say more. It's nothing? Then what is this? She reached out and took the amethyst white jade hairpin from his hand, smiling as she looked at her nervous father. Xiaojiu, be careful. Don't break it. He quickly stood up, afraid that she would accidentally break the amethyst white jade hairpin. Fengjiu saw his nervous expression and slyly smiled. Father, This is Mother's, right? Are you secretly missing young Qin here? As soon as her voice fell, she seemed to have discovered that she had no memory of her mother. In fact, no one in the manor had ever mentioned anything about her mother. AI, he sighed and sat down. Seeing this, Fengjiu also stopped smiling and moved a chair to sit next to him. He handed the amethyst white jade hairpin back to him. Father, tell me about my mother. Is she still alive? I'm already 16 years old, but I've never heard you mention anything about my mother. Tell me about her. To be able to make her father not remarry for so many years and not have a single woman by his side, he must have loved her mother dearly. Only, she didn't know what kind of woman her mother was. To be able to make such an iron-willed man secretly hide here and look at her old things, feeling dejected and sad. Feng Xiao took the amethyst white jade hairpin and said, "This amethyst white jade hairpin really is your mother's. Other than leaving you behind for father, she only left this hairpin. Father, since you love my mother so deeply, why haven't you mentioned her in all these years? What about my mother? Is she still alive?" She asked again. Feng Xiao looked at the hairpin in his hand and said faintly, "It's not that father doesn't want to mention her, but that father has forgotten her in the past. I don't know who she is, and where she is from. I only know that there is a woman in my heart, a woman that I always want to remember, but always can't remember." Ah, how could that be? She was slightly stunned. She couldn't remember? How could this be? Yes, I can't remember. I only remembered everything about your mother after I was ambushed by the Morong bow. Your mother was a kind and gentle beauty. She was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. But I only remembered her after so many years. I really deserved to die at looking at her father's face full of self-blame, guilt, and pain. Her gaze sank. She asked, "Did someone do something to father? Why would they do something to him? Could it be that her mother's identity was not ordinary? Your mother and I were together, but her family and father didn't allow it. Everyone was against it because she was so outstanding, so beautiful, and I was just a martial artist. I wasn't worthy of her, but she didn't care about anything. She abandoned everything just to be with me. I couldn't even give her a proper wedding." Chapter 491. Your mother's name is Shangguan Wanro. I met her when I went out to practice. At that time, I received a mercenary mission and met her when she was picking herbs. The people who followed her were killed, and she herself was seriously injured. I took her to hide from place to place and evaded those assassins. You don't know, do you? Your mother was an alchemist, an extremely talented alchemist. Fengjiu listened quietly. She listened to her father talk in detail about how he met and fell in love with her mother. She listened to him talk about the hardships they went through during that time. She listened to him talk about how her mother was pregnant with her and had followed him back to the glorious Sun Country when they were found by her family. You were stopped by my mother's family? What happened after that? Her heart skipped a beat. Listening to her father's recollection, she seemed to be able to see the thrilling scene at that time. A noble family, a young miss who was running away from home. Moreover, she was pregnant with a child without the permission of her family's elders. The consequences of being caught by her family and her father were unimaginable. Her father wanted to kill me and you, who were about to be born. She threatened him with her life and said that if anything happened to me or the child, she would not live alone. Later, her father took a step back and allowed her to give birth to the child. He told me to leave with the child and never see her again. She was also captured and brought back. The reason why I can't remember her is because her father had placed a seal on my memories. He had sealed all the memories related to her. It was also at that time that the seal was broken by a freak combination of factors. All these years, although I can't remember your mother, I can't remember anything about her. However, I always knew that there was someone in my heart. Someone who shouldn't be forgotten but was forgotten. If I hadn't broken the seal by a freak combination of factors, I really don't know if she would have been forgotten by me forever. Speaking to this point, his voice trembled slightly. Thinking about how he couldn't remember who his beloved was and how he couldn't remember anything about her, his heart couldn't help but tremble. Fengjiu's heavy eyes moved slightly. She asked, "Father, you still haven't told me which country is mother from? She's the eldest daughter of the Shangguan family of the Qi Tian Kingdom, a first-rate country in the eastern region. With that, Feng Xiao looked at her and said solemnly, Xiao Jiao, I know you're very outstanding, but a first-class powerful country is too high for a small ninth-class country like ours. There are countless experts there. Even a small family from a first-class powerful country can't compete with them. You should know that there are thousands of ninth-class small countries in the eastern region, and there are only 10 first-class powerful countries in the whole eastern region. Even 100 sixth-class countries like the Qingting Kingdom can't compare with them. You have to promise me that you will hide this matter in your heart. You know that your mother is Shangguan Wanrong, you know where she came from, and you know that she's still alive. If the people in her family know that I've broken through the seal and remembered everything, then I'm afraid that what awaits us will be unhesitatingly strangling us. Because they don't allow people like us, who come from a small ninth-grade country, to taint the reputation of the aristocratic families of powerful countries. They don't allow people to know the relationship between us and the eldest daughter of the Shangguan family. Even more so, they don't allow their aristocrats to have any relationship with us. Chapter 492. Yes, she knew what to do. She knew that her mother was still alive, and knew what kind of person her mother was. Then, she knew what she had to do. A faint light flashed through her smiling eyes as she comforted her father with a smile. She changed the topic and said, Father, actually, I came here today because I have something to tell you. Feng Xiao composed himself and asked, What is it? Recently, I have encountered a bottleneck in my cultivation and have been unable to break through. Then, Ling Mohan also told me not to rush to break through my cultivation. He said that what I lacked was an opportunity. So when I said that I wanted to go out and train, he said that he wanted to go with me and could even guide me. So, we came here today to tell you about this. Her voice paused, as if she had thought of something, and said, Oh, that's right. When we came out, it was my brother who told me on the way that there was an opportunity for him to leave the black market. He said that there was a mercenary group for him to join. He thought that he would have to leave this place sooner or later, so he wanted to go out and gain experience before he could enter the academy to further his studies. Hearing this, Feng Xiao nodded. This is a good thing. Shilin's talent is not low. As long as he performs well, his future will be extraordinary. It is good that he has such an opportunity to join the mercenary team. Father agrees, but you and Mohan, he looked at her and saw her carefree look. He could not help but sigh. What are you thinking? I think he is really good. No matter if it is his ability or his character, he is outstanding. More importantly, Father can see that he is sincere towards you. Father, you don't have to worry about me. I will make my own decisions. Father, I don't know how long I'll be gone this time, but you don't have to worry. I'll take care of myself. If there's a chance, I'll take the opportunity to inquire about grandfather, so you don't have to worry about grandfather. As long as there's news, I'll send it back. When I'm not by your side, you have to take care of yourself and wait for us to come back. Wait for me when I am back. Hearing this, Feng Xiao smiled. He patted her hand gently and said, Okay. Father knows. You just have to take good care of yourself. Then, Father will not worry about you. I will leave the 4 golden essence adepts behind for Father to order around. In addition, I will also inform the Phoenix Guards. Luo Yu and the rest will also stay behind. Father, you can order them to do anything. I will take Long Shuang away. Long Hua will stay behind to take care of Father. You are not taking Luo Yu and the rest with you? He was a little surprised. He thought that she would bring Luo Yu and the rest with her for training. She smiled and said, They will stay behind. They are familiar with the Phoenix Guard's movements. Moreover, there are 8 of them. It will be too troublesome to bring them along. You. Chapter 493. Long Hua. She rolled her eyes and thought for a moment before nodding. That's fine too. He hasn't been anywhere before, so I'll bring him along this time. She looked at him with a smile and said, Father, you're the king now. If the palace is empty, You can't wait for me to come back and find me a bunch of colorful women. Hearing this, Feng Xiao was stunned for a moment, then he laughed and scolded. You child, what nonsense are you saying? Is your father that kind of person? Hee hee, I know father isn't like that, but there's no guarantee that those people below won't give you women. Feng Xiao couldn't listen to her anymore and immediately shook his head and stood up. All right, it won't be good if you continue talking. Didn't you say that your brother and Mohan are here? Where are they? Let's go and take a look. They're at the pavilion on the rockery. I asked them to wait there. She smiled and held his hand as they walked out. In her heart, she was thinking that she had to tell Luo Yu and the others to not let anyone take advantage of this opportunity to stuff women into her father's hands. She still had plans to go and find her mother. The father and daughter pair arrived at the pavilion. Yama Lord and Guan Shilin, who were sitting and talking, stood up and greeted Feng Xiao. At his signal, they all sat down together. Godfather, I plan to join the mercenary group and go out for a while. I'll be leaving tomorrow, so I came over today to inform you. Guan Shilin spoke first. You're leaving tomorrow? So soon? Feng Xiao was a little surprised and asked, have you arranged everything in the manor? You're going out on a long journey. Have you prepared everything? Yes, I've arranged everything in the manor. There aren't many people at home, so I'll just let the housekeeper look after the manor. Furthermore, it's next to the Feng Manor, so there shouldn't be any problems. I've already prepared everything for the trip. Feng Xiao nodded and said, that's good. You must be careful when you go out. If anything happens, send someone to bring back news. Hearing this, Guan Shilin grinned. I will. Uncle Feng, I'll be leaving with Xiao Jiu in 3 days. I'm here today to say goodbye. Ling Mohan said. In front of Feng Xiao, he had never put on the airs of a Yama Lord. He had always regarded himself as a junior. Xiao Jiu just told me. You guys too. You must be careful when you're outside. You can't be careless. Feng Xiao looked at him and said with a smile, with you by Xiao Jiu's side to guide her, I'll be very relieved. Father, you should rest assured that I'm outside by myself. When have you ever seen me being bullied by others? As Feng Jiu spoke, he took a sip of the tea on the table and picked up a piece of dessert to eat. He said casually, I've always been the one bullying others. If others want to bully me, it's difficult. I heard that you got drunk in the manor that day. You're a girl. Remember not to drink when you're outside. It's fine if you get drunk at home, but if you get drunk outside, who knows what will happen. As soon as Feng Xiao finished speaking, she saw that her daughter, who was eating pastries, seemed to choke on them. Her pretty face flushed red. Cough, cough, cough. Feng Jiu coughed a few times and quickly drank the tea. Only then did she feel better. Before she could catch her breath, she heard her father's voice. Chapter 494. Hearing Feng Jiu being reprimanded and seeing her choking on the pastries, Ling Mohan lowered his gaze and took a sip of tea, using the teacup to cover the overflowing smile at the corner of his mouth. Guan Shilin poured a cup of tea for Feng Jiu and said, Drink more tea. Why did you choke on the pastries? Feng Jiu was embarrassed, and her face was slightly red. She glared at the pretentious person and said, I'm fine. I just accidentally choked. Then she said, Father, I know, I won't get drunk outside. If it wasn't for the person who tried to make her drunk, how could she have gotten drunk? She had a good tolerance for alcohol, okay? Father, I'll be staying in the palace for the next 2 days. I told you to move in earlier, but you didn't. Look, I haven't seen you all day. He shook his head and said, Since you're going out, remember to ask Lung Shuang to prepare everything for you. Yes, I know. I'll go see where Luo Yu and the others are and hand over some things. She stood up and said to Guan Shilin, Brother, I'll send you off tomorrow. It's okay. You do what you need to do. You don't have to send me off tomorrow. Guan Shilin waved his hand and stood up. I won't stay any longer. I'll go back to the residence first. With that, he bid farewell to them and left. Mohan, how about we play a few games of chess? Feng Xiao looked at the Yama Lord opposite him and asked. Since he had asked, he naturally wouldn't refuse. Hence, the two of them got someone to set up the chessboard and started playing chess in the pavilion. As for the other side, Fengju left first. After walking for a while, he couldn't help but pat his chest and sigh softly. I didn't do anything wrong. Why am I so easily frightened? Lung Shuang, who was following behind him, heard this and a subtle smile appeared on his face. Hui Lang and the others said that Master is the Yama Lord's nemesis, but I think the Yama Lord is Master's nemesis. Hearing this, Fengju turned around and smiled. Lung Shuang, you're right. That guy is my nemesis. Nothing good happens when I meet him. Lung Shuang didn't reply and just followed quietly. Fengju paused and said, That's right. I plan to bring Lung Hua with me this time. I didn't see him just now. Go find out where he is and tell him to come with us. Hearing this, Lung Shuang's eyes lit up and his face couldn't help but overflow with joy. Thank you, Master. He thanked her for giving her younger brother a chance to go out and see the world. What's there to thank me for? Go. I'll go check on Luo Yu and the others and tell them to keep an eye on them. She waved her hand, indicating that she should leave first to find Lung Hua. Yes, Lung Shuang responded gratefully and then went to find her younger brother to tell him the good news. When Fengju found Luo Yu and the others, they were sparring with the Phoenix Guards in the martial arts field. Seeing this, she called them to the side and gave them some instructions. However, before she could reply, she heard Luo Yu exclaim in shock, Master is going out again? You're not taking us? Master, even if you don't take all 8 of us, at least take me with you. I can accompany you and protect you. Chapter 495. Master, we really want to go out with you to train. Please bring us along. When the others saw Luo Yu speak, they hurriedly chimed in. They really wanted to go out with her, especially after Luo Yu came back and told them about what happened when he went out with Master. They had been looking forward to it. Although they would encounter danger during the experiential learning, it was also an essential path of growth for cultivators. Especially when they were by Master's side, they would be able to understand her better. She could also give them some pointers outside, which would definitely be beneficial for them. However, Fengju didn't plan to bring them along. Thus, she said, the Phoenix dynasty isn't very peaceful right now, and my father has just ascended to the throne not too long ago. I can't stay here forever, but you guys can. Help me guard this place well, and there will be plenty of benefits for you guys in the future. When there is a chance in the future, I will let you guys go out with me, but not now. Hearing her say this, the few of them knew that there was no hope and didn't mention it again. After all, she didn't look like she was joking. Since it was their master's order, they could only obey. Thus, the 8 of them looked at each other and replied in a deep voice, Yes, Master, don't worry. We will protect the Emperor and University well. Fengju gave them some instructions and lectured the Fengwei before walking towards her palace. At this time, Lung Shuang and Lung Hua were already waiting in the palace. When they saw her return, the 2 of them went up to welcome her. Master. She replied, her gaze landing on the excited Lung Hua. She smiled and said, Prepare well. This time, I will bring you out a train. Even if you don't have any cultivation, you can barely protect yourself with Taiji. If there is an opportunity, you might be able to cultivate. Hearing this, Lung Hua's eyes sparkled. He asked excitedly and happily, Master, are you saying that I will also have the chance to cultivate? But I can't cultivate mystic energy, can I? You can't cultivate mystic energy, but when we go out, we can find a chance to test if you have the spiritual roots to cultivate. Then, won't you be able to cultivate? She smiled and walked forward. When she entered the bedroom, she saw several trays on the table with more than 10 sets of red and white clothes on them. Lung Hua, who was excited by her words, followed closely behind. Seeing that she was looking at the clothes, he said, A few days ago, a tailor came to the palace to help His Majesty make some clothes. At that time, His Majesty couldn't find His Majesty, so His Majesty ordered me to take a set of His Majesty's clothes and have them make 20 sets of different styles. I had them make 10 sets of men's clothing and 10 sets of women's clothing. Fengju picked up a set and looked at it. He compared it to his body and smiled. Well, not bad. They all look good. Just in time. I don't have to worry about not having enough clothes for this trip. She turned around to look at the two of them and said with a smile, "You can leave now. There's no need to wait on me here. Go back and make some preparations. All right, get someone to bring Laobai and Chochio here. We'll set off directly from the palace." Yes, the two of them responded and left. 3 days later. Chapter 496. I want to bring Old Bai with me. I'll bring little Tunyun with me too. Hey look. Fengjiu appeared in front of them, dressed in men's clothing. She stepped forward and lifted her chin slightly, indicating for the Yama Lord to look at Little Ball. Ever since she saw Little Ball transform into its original form and swallow the nascent soul, she rarely called it Little Ball. Instead, she called it Little Tunyun. After all, the scene of it swallowing the nascent soul was too unforgettable for her. No matter how she looked at it, she felt that Little Ball was no longer suitable for it. Seeing her appear in men's clothing, the dazzling red clothes were still as eye-catching and flamboyant as before, but it was no longer a woman's dress, but a man's robe. Because she was dressed as a man, her entire person exuded a devilish charm and a free and easy aura. She was a living example of a noble young master. Her extremely exquisite and outstanding appearance, even though she was dressed as a man, made his eyes move slightly. Suddenly, he felt that the beggar's outfit suited her. Yes, it would be better if she smeared some mud or herbs on her face. That would be even better. Fengjiu, who walked out, glanced at him and asked, "You're not planning to go out like this, are you?" The Yama Lord raised his eyebrows. "What else?" "Stick your uncle's beard on your face and change into a less eye-catching robe." She lifted her chin slightly, looking a little narcissistic. Her tone was light and cheerful as she said, "It's fine as long as I'm the good-looking one. Otherwise, it'll be too eye-catching if we walk together." Sigh, "I don't think it'll be a good scene just thinking about it." Hearing her words, the Yama Lord was speechless. He glanced at her with a strange expression. "I think it'll be better if you change into a beggar's outfit and smear some dust on your face. Do you want to change too?" "How can that be?" Fengjiu glared at him with her bright eyes. "I'm planning to go out and seduce a few beauties." When she said that, even she laughed. "Moreover, I feel that with my handsome face and elegant temperament, the moment I walk out of the door, the hearts of beautiful girls will definitely pound. So, don't ruin my good fortune. Hurry up and change out of those clothes and stick a big beard on your face. How nice would it be to look like an uncle?" Long Shuang's eyes softened as he looked at her with a faint smile on his face. Lung Hua, on the other hand, smiled happily as he watched his dazzling master torment the Yama Lord. Hui Lang and Kagewon, who were following behind the Yama Lord, looked at each other and quietly retreated outside. Fortunately, before their master went out, he had flipped through his clothes and picked out the jade belt and the color of his robe. Unexpectedly, the ghost doctor felt that he was too dazzling and handsome. She was afraid that he would steal her limelight, so she asked their master to change into an uncle's outfit. Well, although it would be more convenient for him to go out with his identity, their master had planned to show off his endless masculine charm along the way. He also planned to use his masculine charm to seduce the ghost doctor. But now, if he changed into an uncle's outfit, how could this idea be carried out? The two of them secretly glanced at their master and couldn't help but mourn for him. Needless to say, their master would definitely follow the ghost doctor's words and change into an uncle's outfit. Sure enough, just as the two of them were thinking about it, they heard their master's voice. "Then I'll change here. Come in and help me." As he spoke, he walked towards Fengjiu's room. Chapter 497. Fengjiu and the others did not leave on horseback or in a carriage. Instead, they left in a spaceship. Other than the Phoenix Guards who were reluctant to part, the only person who saw them off was Feng Xiao, who was worried about them. The Feng family was now part of the Phoenix dynasty, and they were protected by powerful cultivators. Naturally, they were extraordinary. Even when the people in the city saw the spaceship flying out of the palace, they were only surprised and did not say anything. As for the spaceship, little Tunyun and Lao Bai were lying outside. They looked at the clouds in the sky from time to time. Lung Hua had a happy smile on his face. He was as happy as a child who was going out to play with an adult. Other than the fear he felt when he first sat on the spaceship and looked down at the sky, there was only joy left on his face after he gradually got used to it. Unlike the others, he first familiarized himself with the spaceship inside and out. Then, he prepared tea and snacks for them so that they could drink tea, eat snacks, and chat on the spaceship to relax. Yama Lord, who was sitting outside, watched the spaceship fly forward. He glanced at Fengjiu, who had been blinking her beautiful eyes ever since she boarded the spaceship. He took a sip of the tea that Long Hua had brewed. "Tell me, what are you up to now?" He. Fengjiu smiled embarrassedly, but her eyes were sparkling as she looked at him. "Uncle, with your status, you should be able to enter a third-class country, right? The stronger the country, the more proof of identity was needed to enter. A Jade Pass was not easy to get. You want to go to a third-class country? Which country are you going to? What's the reason?" He did not answer her directly. Instead, he asked. Hearing this, Fengjiu sat up straight. The smile on her face disappeared. She said, "I have a clue. My grandfather should be in the third-class country, the Yin Kingdom. I don't want to go to the mountains or forests this time. I just want to go to the Yin Kingdom to ask for information." Ling Mohan glanced at her and said, "Don't you know how to be a pharmacist? Why don't you go to the Pharmacist Guild and get the badge of a medicine saint? With your talent in alchemy, you should have reached the level of an alchemy sage. With this identity, you can even freely enter a first- or second-class country, let alone a third-class country." She frowned and said, "But I've seen the information. Only the Pharmacist Guilds in third-class countries have the ability to take the Medicine Saint level examination. Those below third-class countries can only reach the Medicine Grandmaster level at most. Aren't you going to die in? When the time comes, find a chance to get the Medicine Sage's badge back." She was secretly planning in her heart. Just her identity as a princess of the Phoenix dynasty was not enough to attract those people's attention, but if she could obtain a badge of astonishing strength in the field of medicine or alchemy, then it would be different. On the other hand, Fengjiu, who had no idea what he was planning, was plotting in her heart. Her mother was in the first-class Qitian Kingdom, and she was thinking of a way to get there. Since the Medicine Saint's badge was a form of identification that allowed one to travel freely between countries, she had to get her hands on it no matter what. The flying ship shuttled through the clouds steadily, carrying the thoughts and expectations of the few people on the ship as it headed towards the Yin Kingdom. At this moment, in a certain family in the Yin Kingdom, old Master Feng, who was in high spirits, had the wine gourd that Fengjiu had given him hanging on his waist. He quietly slipped to the back wall and looked around. When he saw that there was no one around, he planned to climb the wall and sneak away. "Where are you going?" "Believe it or not, I'll directly do you tonight." Hearing this, Master Feng, who was about to step over the threshold, was so shocked that he fell to the ground. He directly used his head to knock open the door and rolled out. He turned around to look at the beautiful woman, whose eyes were filled with shame and anger. His face was deathly pale, and with a bang, he quickly closed the door. Then, there was another banging sound, as if someone was using something in the room to block the door and windows. The secret guards who were in charge of keeping watch in the dark were so shocked by these fierce words that their jaws almost fell. They swallowed their saliva and looked at the elegant and gentle beauty. If they didn't hear it with their own ears, they wouldn't believe that such fierce words would come from her mouth. Chapter 499. "Ah!" A loud laugh rang out, and a man who looked to be in his 40s walked out. He wore simple black robes, and his usually dignified face could not help but reveal a smile at this moment. In particular, when his gaze landed on the elegantly dressed woman, there was a hint of helplessness in his eyes. "Sushi, you'll scare Sanyuan like this." The person who came was the head of the Lin family, Lin Buang. He was also Lin Sushi's older brother and Old Master Feng's sworn brother. Although Lin Buang was older than Old Master Feng, his appearance had always been in peak condition. He looked like a man who had just entered middle age and didn't look old at all. As the head of the Lin family, his cultivation wasn't bad, and he had just entered the nascent soul realm. Big brother. She helplessly turned around and called out. Looking at the tightly shut door, she frowned with worry. Look, he's avoiding me like a mouse seeing a cat. It's as if I'm a wolf, tiger, or leopard. Am I really that scary? As she spoke, she couldn't help but touch her face. For the first time, she didn't have confidence in her appearance. She even thought, was it really the right choice for her to take the face-establishing pill to maintain her appearance? If she was as old as he was today, would he be able to accept her more easily? Looking at his little sister, Lin Buoheng's eyes were filled with pity. Their family of 4 brothers only had this one little sister. Not only did their parents dote on her like a treasure, but the 4 brothers also protected her from a young age. But they didn't expect that when he brought back the sworn brother he met outside, this girl would fall in love with him at first sight. But at that time, Sanyuan was already married and his wife was already pregnant. At that time, everyone tried to persuade her and even gathered the portraits of all the outstanding unmarried young men in the city for her to choose. But this girl was stubborn. Seeing that she had decided on Sanyuan, his family gathered together and discussed finding Sanyuan. They didn't care that he was from a 9th-ranked country. They only hoped that he could treat Sushi well and let him take Sushi as his second wife. Who knew that after this girl found out, she would directly reject this matter. Even now, he could still clearly remember that she had a serious expression at that time and said, "It's true that I, Lin Sushi, fell in love with Feng Sanyuan, but I don't want to be a bad woman who destroys a family. A relationship cannot tolerate a third party. Since he has already married his wife, then I will wait." Just the word wait had made her wait for a few decades. She watched from afar. Just as she said, she didn't destroy his family. She didn't let his wife know that there was a woman like her waiting foolishly. She watched him give birth to a child, watched him and his wife love each other, watched their child grow up, watched them have a granddaughter. After decades of waiting, her heart was tired and full of scars. Under the advice of her family, she went into seclusion to cultivate. She turned her longing into the motivation for her cultivation. She cultivated day and night, not listening to outside news and not thinking about that person. Until recently, when she came out of seclusion, she found out that his wife had passed away more than 10 years ago. Because of this, she sent people to kidnap him. Chapter 500. I know. Her brows relaxed and she revealed a gentle smile. Now that I can see him by my side, I'm happy. Hearing this, Lin Buoheng looked at her with a strange expression. He coughed dryly and asked, "He's an old man now. Do you really like him? Although the two of you are only 10 years apart in age, your appearance has always remained the same. He's different. Why don't you think about it again?" Fine. Actually, he didn't understand what his sister liked about Sanyuan. When he was young, he could still have a good appearance. But now, he was already over 60 years old. How could she still take a fancy to an old man? Moreover, it wasn't what he wanted to say. It was because the difference in appearance between the two of them was too big. It was really awkward to look at. He also felt that Sanyuan was so old while Sushi was still so young. All these years, even when he knew that his wife had passed away, he never told Sushi. Who knew? Unexpectedly, Sushi smiled and looked at Lin Buoheng. Big brother, he's always been Sanyuan's older brother. He hasn't changed. Forget it. Forget it. Do as you wish. In any case, you've already kidnapped him. I don't care anymore. He waved his hand and said. Suddenly, his expression froze. Look, after being disturbed by your matter, I almost forgot about the important matter. What important matter? She asked. I'll call Sanyuan out. This matter is his Feng family's matter. Lin Buoheng smiled and walked towards the tightly shut door. He shouted, Sanyuan, come out quickly. I have good news for you. Big brother, you can say whatever you want. I can hear you here. I won't go out. Old Master Feng, who was hiding inside, blocked the door. He drank some wine to calm himself down. His old face was red and his hands and feet were trembling slightly. It seemed that he was really frightened. How could he not be frightened? He was already a pile of old bones. He really couldn't stand being frightened. Hearing his trembling voice, Lin Buoheng turned around and glared at his sister. Look at how frightened he was. Even his voice was trembling. Sushi was also angered by him, which was why she said those words. Now that she calmed down, she felt a bit embarrassed. Seeing that he was really frightened by her words, she didn't know what to do for a moment. She really didn't want to scare him. Brother Sanyuan, come out. I was just joking, she said a bit embarrassedly. Inside, Elder Feng was sitting on the ground blocking the door. He held the wine gourd in his arms and drank a few more mouthfuls. When he heard her words, he instinctively shook his head. No, I won't go out even if you beat me to death. Seeing this, Sushi looked at her brother for help. Go back first. I'll talk to him. Lin Buoheng smiled and waved for her to leave. All right then. Helplessly, she could only agree. However, after thinking about it, she said worriedly, but big brother, don't let Brother Sanyuan leave. If he really leaves, he will definitely hide. I know. Lin Buoheng sighed in his heart. Seeing her leave, he shook his head and knocked on the door. Sanyuan, Sushi left. Open the door. I really have something to tell you. It's about your Feng family. Old Master Feng heard this and thought about the Feng family's situation. He was also worried. He immediately asked, She really left? She left. Lin Buoheng smiled in response. Hearing this, Old Master Feng moved away the chair and table that was blocking the door. He carefully opened the door a crack and poked his head out to take a look. After confirming that she was gone, he let out a sigh of relief. Chapter 501. Seeing him like this, Lin Buoheng shook his head and laughed. You don't know how lucky you are. What's wrong with Sushi? She actually makes you avoid her like she's a snake or a scorpion. Old Master Feng smiled bitterly. Big brother, don't make fun of me. You know that Sushi is too good. I'm really not good enough for her. Also, I'm just an old man. How would I dare to think about that? Then what do you think we should do? Sushi isn't joking. She can wait for you for a few decades. She can wait forever. Do as you see fit. I can't help you with this. He walked in and saw that he had messed up the tables and chairs in the room. He couldn't help but shake his head and say, Let's sit outside in the courtyard. Look at your place. What's wrong with it? As he spoke, he turned around and walked out. He sat down at the stone table in the courtyard and ordered someone to prepare tea and bring it over. Old Master Feng followed him and sat opposite him. He quickly asked anxiously, Big brother, you said you have news about my Feng family? What is it? How is my granddaughter now? Did that Morong Bo bully her when I wasn't around? Ever since he was kidnapped, he had been worried about his family. Feng Shao couldn't show his face, so everything was done by that girl. He didn't know if that Morong Bo would use any tricks to deal with her. Although she was outstanding, she was still young. How could she be a match for that Morong Bo? Haha, your granddaughter isn't ordinary. Lin Buoheng chuckled and looked at him. Do you know what happened in the country of Glorious Sun recently? Seeing that he was nervous and couldn't hide the worry in his eyes, he didn't keep him in suspense. He said, The country of Glorious Sun is gone. Morong Bo is also dead. Your Feng family has taken over the country and changed its name to the Phoenix Dynasty. The king is your son, Feng Shao. This news spread in a few days. What? How is this possible? Old Master Feng was stunned. He couldn't believe it. Morong Bo was dead in such a short time? Moreover, the Glorious Sun Empire was changed to the Phoenix Dynasty? She became the Feng family's? How is this possible? What's impossible? Your granddaughter is not ordinary. He smiled and told him everything he knew in detail. When he reached the part where a powerful cultivator helped them kill a nascent soul cultivator, his expression became a bit strange. Nascent soul stage powerhouses were rare, but the powerhouse who killed a nascent soul stage old monster with a snap of his fingers was even rarer. Such a character was definitely a character from an ordinary country. However, How could such a powerhouse come to an inconspicuous Feng family in a mere ninth-class country? And he even stepped in to protect her? After listening to him, old Master Feng's face was full of shock. His heart was in turmoil. He didn't expect this. He didn't expect this. Dazzling had actually changed to the Phoenix dynasty, and it had even become their Feng clans. The monarch had even become his son. Why? Why did this feel like a dream? Feng Xiao and the Feng girl were too bold, weren't they? I came to tell you after I received the news, lest you keep worrying about what would happen to the Feng family. Now that you've heard the news, you should be relieved, right? He smiled and couldn't help but laugh when he saw the disbelief on old Master Feng's face. Chapter 502. After a long while, old Master Feng regained his senses and muttered, "How can I be at ease? How could it be so easy to control a country? Feng Xiao is just a general. He doesn't know how to scheme at all. Now that he's the king, the surrounding countries will be restless. No, no, I have to go back. I won't be at ease if I don't go back. Didn't you hear what I said? Your son's strength is now stronger than yours. He's already become a martial emperor. Furthermore, on the night he broke through, a blessing descended from the heavens. His position as the emperor is stable. You don't have to worry about others shaking his position. Furthermore, with that strong cultivator around, the surrounding small countries won't dare to offend your Phoenix dynasty." As Lin Buoheng spoke, he continued, "According to the news, in my opinion, your son and granddaughter aren't as useless as you say. My people told me that the Phoenix dynasty is stable in all aspects, and the surrounding small nations have also sent people over to congratulate you. To be able to stabilize the internal and external situation in such a short period of time, other than your son and granddaughter's ability, it's also because you have many experts protecting you. Didn't you say there were 4 golden core cultivators? For golden core cultivators in a rank 9 small country isn't something an ordinary army can defend against. So you can stay here at ease. Don't think about leaving. You heard it too. When Sushi left, she told me not to let you sneak away. As her big brother, I can't let her down. Big brother, can you bear to let me down?" Old Master Feng wanted to cry but had no tears. He originally wanted to take this opportunity to go back, but who knew that the Phoenix dynasty was stable and didn't need an old man like him to go back and help oversee things. They wanted him to stay here, and there was also that Sushi. Just thinking about her made his scalp numb. "I'm just an old man. I'm really not worthy of Sushi. Big brother, please persuade her." He could do whatever he wanted in Yunhua City, but here, his strength wasn't enough. Even if he wanted to escape, he couldn't. Thinking about it, he felt anxious. What if Sushi was afraid that he would sneak away and really forced him to go through the wedding ceremony? Just thinking about it made him break out in cold sweat and his hands and feet tremble. I also said that you're just a rotten old man. You look even older than me, but who asked her to be so stubborn? I've already tried to persuade her. Since I can't persuade her, I want to persuade you as her big brother. It's rare for Sushi to be sincere to you. Just follow her." Speaking of him, even he couldn't help but laugh. Fine. He also felt that these two people were strange no matter how he looked at them. They were indeed not compatible, but in this world, he had never heard of any pill or medicine that could restore one's youth. Otherwise, he could help him get it. That way, he would probably feel a little better. Big brother. Old Master Feng was speechless. He really couldn't stand his teasing. This wasn't fun at all. Instead, it was too embarrassing. He really didn't have the face to do that. Since it didn't work here, he would think of another way. He didn't believe that he couldn't sneak out of the Lin clan. Chapter 503. Lin Buoheng had lived for close to 100 years. How could he not know what he was thinking? He only glanced at him and smiled. "Of course. If you want to go out, let Sushi accompany you. You haven't been here for so many years. This place has changed a lot. It's good to take a walk." "Big brother, I'll tell you the truth. Whenever I see Sushi, I just want to hide. I'm really scared of her. Old Master Feng didn't drink tea. Instead, he took a sip from his wine gourd and said, if my son and granddaughter knew about this, where would I put my old face? Hearing this, Lin Buoheng wasn't too happy. His face immediately darkened. What? My sister Su, she is so unworthy of your attention? She's a disgrace to you? Why don't you think about who made her wait for so many years? You only think about your old face. Why don't you think about how much gossip Su she has to endure? Why don't you think about how difficult it was for her to achieve this? Big brother, you know that's not what I meant. Old Master Feng sighed. He didn't know what to say anymore. If he continued, it would only make things worse. Lin Buoheng put down his teacup and stood up. You're familiar with this, Lin. Other than not wanting you to leave, the residents didn't restrict your movements. You can go wherever you want to go and see wherever you want to. I've already told them that the people in the residence don't dare to disrespect you. What are you unhappy about? Let's not talk about anything else. We brothers haven't seen each other for so many years. Now that you're in the Lin residence, shouldn't we find a chance to get together for a drink? But look at yourself. You hide in this courtyard all day. I feel embarrassed for you. Moreover, you haven't seen Su Shi for so many years. Can't you have a good chat with her? Ask her how she's been all these years. Think about it carefully. Don't always think about running away. If you do, I'll help Su Shi go to the Phoenix Dynasty to arrest you. After saying this, Lin Buoheng didn't stop. He walked away to let Su Shi think about it carefully. Old Master Feng sighed and sat down in the courtyard to drink wine. The hidden guards in the shadows looked at each other in dismay. They really didn't know why they were so conflicted about such a good thing. A few days later, a spaceship gradually approached the border city of the Yin Kingdom. Fengju did not want to attract too much attention, so he wanted them to get off the spaceship and walk to the city gate. However, Ling Mohun said it was not a big deal, so the spaceship stopped directly outside the city gate. For a third-tier country, spaceships were very common. Unlike the people from a ninth-tier country, they would not surround a spaceship the moment they saw one. However, they were still scrutinized by the people around them. This was because other than the luxurious spaceship, their clothes, appearance, and temperament were all extremely outstanding. It was impossible for them not to attract attention. The people guarding the city gate also thought that they were the children of some noble family. Therefore, when they approached, the person in charge of identity verification made it convenient for them. They did not need to be excluded and could directly come to the front to verify their identity jade tablet. Ling Mohun stood beside Fengjiu and did not go forward. Only Hui Lang went forward and handed over something. The person guarding the city gate was shocked. After bowing respectfully to them, he quickly opened the city gate to let them in. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.